Okay, we'll call our March 14th workshop to order and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wendy, you want to take the roll call?
Mike Hobson,
Here.
Marilyn Ertley,
Here.
Deborah Nelson,
Here.
Don Banny,
Here.
Sweaty,
Here.
Heather Logan,
Here.
Michelle Bly.
Here.
Madam Mayor, I move for approval of the agenda as presented.
Second.
Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll jump right into our workshop items this evening. And first up is an ordinance amending chapter 2.36 of the Arlington Municipal Code. Paul?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, this ordinance updates chapter 2.36 of our municipal code. This particular code is related to the merger or the annexation into North County Regional Fire Authority. This update will reflects that North County Regional Fire Authority will be the sole provider of EMS and fire service in the city. So it's more of a housekeeping item, but this will ordinance avoids any competition of service by just naming them as the sole provider. So happy to answer any questions.
Heather?
Paul, I know that there are interlocal agreements. So when you say sole provider, there must be a special legal carve out for interlocal agreements, because in times when all the rigs are busy, it's not necessarily North County that's going to come here. Or is that what you're saying? Only North County is going to respond inside the city limits?
No, this really is it says that North County is the only one that will respond. However, you're absolutely right. North County has interlocal agreements with all the agencies around them. So they, Marysville or somebody else could respond on their behalf. This really is so that it avoids any private services from coming into the city and providing that service.
I see. So Joe's ambulance couldn't just show up and set up shop.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. So we'll move to our next item, which is our Parks and Recreation Master Plan. And I'll let Sarah introduce our speaker.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council. So tonight we have Tom Beckwith of Beckwith Consulting Group. He's going to present the draft Parks and Recreation Master Plan. And then in a few weeks, he'll come back to the council workshop and present a funding and implementation plan for us to consider. So here's Tom, and he's going to share his screen.
Okay. There, can everybody see that?
Yes. Yes.
All right, we're going to give you a brief walkthrough of what's in the plan document itself and give you some comments as we go. These are your population projections. By 2050, you're looking at about 36,000 people. That's up from about 19,000 you have now. So that's, not quite double, but a significant increase. And the bottom right, we've projected what your age breakouts would be to 2050 if you continue to retain the same kind of attractions in the age groups that you have currently. The blue bars are what you were in 2010. The red bars are what you would be in 2050. You can see that you're still going to have youth in the ages 19 and below. There are going to still be bars in the red bars in the middle-aged families, but you're going to have a significant increase in those over 65. And that's going to color not only your demands for recreational services, but the kinds of programs that you would be providing. And you'll see that in the demand projections. We're projecting then what the number of activity volumes, occurrences as we call them, would occur between 2020 and 2050. 2020 are the blue bars and 2050 are the red bars. And I've highlighted where the major volumes are. They're in weight conditioning, aerobics, and playgrounds, in walking on a park or a trail, walking with a pet. And the largest volume is in observing wildlife. Part of this is due to your age specific attractions, and part of this is just due to the fact that these are the most popular and the greatest volume activities. That doesn't mean that you don't have up in the top columns there, if you don't have recreational activities, but they're not anywhere near the volumes you see in these other interests. And so if you're looking at things that have the greatest benefit to the public, they're the bars that we've highlighted. This is your inventory. These are all the public parks. You have 15 that are yours. One that borders you, that's Marysville Park. That's the Strawberry Athletic Complex. One is the school district, Marysville School District. That's soccer complex. You have 4 county. And then we've shown you in the light green your predominant or your largest open spaces. So you have a good distribution, but you also have some major park facilities just outside your borders that we know draw residents, your residents, outside to use them, and means in some respects you'd have to duplicate those activities in those facilities. This is your school inventory. They're all clustered kind of in the old town and on Highway 9. These are your HOA mini parks and open spaces. Mini parks are the first 13. They're in kind of the darker blue. And they're mini park in the sense that they either have a basketball court or a picnic table or a playground. They don't have all 3. So they're not what we would call comprehensive, quote, small neighborhood parks, but they do provide a service, and you can see the distribution is pretty widespread, at least throughout the city. These are your private and nonprofit. Of course, the Boys and Girls, the Performing Arts, the museum, the athletic club, your Stille Valley Center, which is your senior complex, and your golf course. And they are equally distributed as well. What we measure is walkability to parks, the ability for a resident to walk out their door and within 5 minutes get to a major recreational facility, whether that's a school, a public park, or in this case, we even included the HOA mini parks. So anything in yellow is within that 5 minute or basically a quarter-mile walk. Anything that's white does not have that capability, and therefore we consider it somewhat of a gap. And you'll see that show up in the survey later on. So one of our objectives is to try to fill those white gaps as much as we can. These are your citywide plan elements: conservation, picnic, off-road trails, playgrounds, sport courts, athletic fields, and indoor. The conservation strategy is to consolidate not only your public, but where possible, HOA parks to create open space corridors, focusing primarily on the creeks because they have the riparian habitat, and they also are the areas we want to control for invasive species, and we want to promote salmon species. So we also include those private properties as a result of they're already conserving those as habitat. That doesn't mean we're taking them over, but we simply want to link them, and where possible, have joint ventures with them to improve the habitat potential. These are what those corridors would be. These are predominant creeks. We've highlighted primarily those are inside city limits, but essentially some of those creeks flow in and out of city limits, and working with the county and adjacent cities, we would really try to promote a kind of a regional wide rather than just a citywide emphasis. Your off-road trails is to connect these open spaces and access points to get to major destinations, be they parks, schools, or commercial districts. Design them for the appropriate user and taking into account environmental constraints and property impacts, and install wayfinding signage and directories throughout the system so your residents and people that use them can see where they are and what's available to them. The orange, solid orange, are your existing trails, and the hatched are your proposed trails. And you see what we're doing is, and this is coming primarily from your non-motorized transportation plan, is to create loops and to link these into networks. So you're not just going from point A to Z and Z back to A, but you've got the ability that, like you have on your airport trail, to do a loop system and to pick up as many destinations in that as you can. For the airport trail, we want to extend or proposing to extend stub lines into the residential areas and into your employment centers. You can hook up there and get to the airport and get to that asset. For picnicking strategies, we want to put them where there are natural features that can be enjoyed, where we can be within that 5-minute walk, and in locations that are suitable for larger gatherings, not just for an isolated table here and there. The gold circles are existing facilities. You can see there's some public and there are 3 HOA parks, and the hashed red circles are where we're proposing to add them. We're proposing to add them in Country Charm Park and High Clover Park. The playground strategy is pretty much the same as picnic, the 5-minute walking distance, but we want age-appropriate playgrounds. And we want to increase public access to existing facilities, including the school district playgrounds as much as possible, and upgrade some of your playgrounds to meet new ADA requirements and safety concerns. This is the distribution of your playgrounds. The new ones you're proposing to add are in Country Charm Park, High Clover Park, and Smoky Point Park. But that's a good distribution, even though we recognize that some of those are HOA and not publicly accessible. For your sports courts, we call them sports courts rather than basketball or volleyball or tennis, because the idea is that they should be multi-purpose. So rather than building dedicated courts that can only serve one use, we're encouraging you to develop what we call multi-use courts that can handle basketball, pickleball, volleyball, and even tennis in lots of cases. Also, we want them within the 5-minute walk distance. We want to incorporate schools as much as possible, and you do need to upgrade a number of these to meet life cycle and safety concerns. The new facilities we're proposing are Bill Quake Memorial Park, High Clover, Jensen Park, and Wedgwood Park, and that would give you a good distribution. This is what some of those look like. The images on the top are what we call sports courts. You see the top one on the left can do basketball, or it can do tennis or pickleball primarily, is what emerging as the most popular use, or even volleyball. And in this case, that one is set up for tennis. In the bottom, in a minute, we're going to talk about fields, and what we're promoting is rectangular fields. You can see in the bottom left-hand corner, where rather than dedicated baseball or dedicated soccer, put the baseball diamonds in the corners of the soccer field. So you get, really, you're getting a more efficient use of real estate. It can cost $1 million to $2 million to develop these facilities if they're standalone, let alone the cost of acquiring property. So we're saying make them more efficient and make them more all year-round functional. These are your, well, besides the sports courts, we're looking at what we call skate courts, skate dots, and pump tracks. Skate dots are, if I jump here at the top, those are skate dots. They're just one feature of a court, and they're put in a neighborhood park where the younger age kids can have access to them, not have to migrate all the way across the city in order which to use them. They're very popular in Seattle, and they're distributed throughout the city to meet that interest. In the bottom are pump tracks. That's just what they're called. They're for bicycles, or they're for skateboards to a certain extent. They're also for the scooters, anything that can be pushed or pumped. The bottom left is in Bellingham, that's dirt. The bottom right is in Lake Chelan. The one in Lake Chelan is very, very popular. So what we're saying here is to put the skate dots, so you can see the distribution into the neighborhood park, the best public neighborhood parks, and to consider a pump track at Jensen Park. Athletic fields is to differentiate between competitive games and practices. So we don't have practices using your highest quality and most competitive fields. To schedule them where possible, to use your elementary and middle school fields, so you're getting a better use of those fields. And in some cases, joint venture with the school district to upgrade them for safety concerns and for competition levels. Work with the leagues to establish standardized and equitable field availabilities. One of the biggest problems when we go into cities is to find that there's an uneven distribution of your existing assets between the leagues. Sometimes it's based on grandfather clauses rather than actual need and demand. And then upgrade some of those grass fields for turf and lighting to increase the capacity. We're only proposing new fields at Country Charm Park. Otherwise, we think you have enough real estate. The question is what condition, what quality, and what availability they have. You want to avoid just buying more land because these are very expensive facilities to develop and they don't serve the greatest percent of your population, even though almost everybody's going to play at one time or other in their age. For indoor facilities, we're promoting multi-generational, not isolated child or isolated senior or isolated teen, because your generations change and it's pretty expensive to have single purpose dedicated facilities, which either come into vogue or fall out of vogue. Design them to be flexible so they can be adapted over time. Our interests change. Work with the school district to program their facilities as much as possible and support the Boys and Girls Clubs programs and activities. So we're not proposing anything new. You can see the distribution here of theaters, meeting facilities, gymnasiums, and aquatics. And you have a good inventory if it's all available and all of the highest quality. These are your special event landmarks. We think that's important to have major gatherings. And you do have a good asset base right now with Lebanon and Legion Park. We're saying that there's certain kinds of activities that can be done in stormwater. You have certain performances you can do in Terrace Park. But Country Charm offers the ability to do regional wide gatherings, major events, because there's a considerable space there and it can be somewhat buffered. We also think you need to look at Smoky Point Boulevard so there's something available for gatherings in West Arlington. There are special facilities that we did not identify in the maps, but they're primarily community gardens and dog parks. And both of these are very popular. With community gardens, we're proposing to add maybe to High Clover Park and Country Charm Park. And Country Charm Park, they would be much bigger plots. You could have, rather than what's shown here in the examples. And for your dog park, the issue is this is really a socialization event for small versus large dogs. And also their exercise capabilities. You can see these examples show on the top right, the exercises for a medium-sized dog, and the bottom how they're somewhat segregated and categorized. We're proposing the dog park be in the stormwater and potentially in Country Charm, where you have the ability to have very large spaces and even water access. These are your park-specific proposals, and I'll show you in a minute. We've taken the citywide elements and then they add into these specific park sites as improvements. So Bill Quake, the potential improvements would be the upgrading the playground, putting lights and synthetic turf in, dropping in the sport court, dropping in the skate dot, and upgrading the restrooms. For Centennial Park, there's not much we would want to do to that. That's a beautiful little urban asset. And so the key issue there is maintenance. For Country Charm Park, the key issue is a master plan. There's some major opportunities, but some major constraints on that site. Some of the things that we talked about with shoreline access, community garden, an extension of the perimeter trails, a dog park, group picnic facilities, a playground, but design it with natural materials so that it doesn't look somewhat artificial, a sport court, meaning sand volleyball, athletic fields. Here, probably the premier prototype we would talk about would be King County's 60-acre park. It's a large, very green grass area that they can reprogram however their season and dictate. And then consider a seasonal campground up into the north portion of the park where there's woodlands and the access to the water. Of course, Trail Park, the only thing we would recommend is to upgrade the playground for ADA. For Hallowell Park, we would propose adding shade trees and shelters, reconstruct the boat launch, put in an outdoor stage or performance area, pave and designate and configure the parking lot. For High Clover Park, this is a large green area and we don't find many facilities in here other than a basketball court that's right across the street more or less from this. So we think the things that could be put in here are a community garden, group picnic, playground, a sport court, skate dot, and restrooms to balance this area of the city. For J. Rudy Memorial Park, you've already removed the single family house. We would say upgrade the playground, put in a sport court, and put in a skate dot. For Jensen Park, We propose you acquire that undeveloped residential lot shown as number 2 there on Jensen Farm Lane, put in perimeter trails, put in exercise equipment installed along the path, put in a sport court, skate dot, pump track, and restrooms. For Lebanon Park, none proposed. This is a beautiful park in our opinion, and the issue is to maintain and utilize it. The same with Legion Park. For Stormwater Wetlands Park, you need a master plan. This is a significant piece of property, and the question is how best to utilize it. We would consider maybe a group picnic facility installed under the covered shelter that's already there, improve and upgrade the dog park, maybe renovate that residential building, kind of the octagon there for either rental events or a caretaker, and put in park and trail directories. We would also say add a parking lot off of Dyke Road to relieve the pressure on Haller Park and give you a bit more balance to the park itself. For Terrace Park, we like this park particularly, and the key issues here are maintenance. So you've already been working on the amphitheater terraces. We would suggest you add amphitheater lighting and sound, upgrade those. You're going to need to fix those asphalt paths where the tree root has started to pull them up. Update the playground, upgrade the sport court, put in a skate dot, and upgrade the restroom. Also, we would, if you're going to be redoing the paths, but potentially you could underground those electric lines. This is a beautiful park, and it's kind of a shame to have overhead wires extending everywhere. For Waldo E. Evans Memorial Park, the only thing we would add is upgrade the playground, upgrade the field lights, and consider putting in a synthetic turf. For Wedgewood and Woodway Parks, it'd be to upgrade the playground and put in a sport court. Now, there's some other parks I'm just going to acquaint you with you don't already know. This is Marysville Strawberry Fields, and you can see up in the left-hand corner they have their open grass area athletic fields. They also have trails and a dog park. So this is a draw from people from throughout the area, not just Marysville, but you as well. This is the soccer complex on school property. At some point in time, it'll probably be developed for a school. So this is an interim use. We think it's probably going to be. This is a Centennial Trail Park. And if you go down to Armour Road, there is a trailhead there on the left where the number 1 is, has benches and picnic tables and so on. Not only does it access the trail, but what's shown in number 2 is the North County Wildlife Area Park. So you have the ability to roam through that park, roam through the tree stands, and really get back into nature very directly and easily. This is a Gisburg Twin Lakes Park. Everybody is familiar with this. This is a major draw as well. And as fishing and other activities within your doorstep, alleviating the need for you to try to provide this yourself. This is River Meadows Park, a very large county park. It has campsites and yurts as well, an extensive system of trails, and an extensive system of group picnic shelters for group activities. In some cases here, the question would be how this and Country Charm Park are coordinated to maximize the potentials for each site. This is Twin Rivers Park. I guess the only thing we would propose here, if there were improvements by the county or you, is put in group picnic facilities and upgrade the playground for all ages. And keep in mind that while their older kids come to play sports, they bring along their younger brothers and sisters, and you do need some organized activities and safe places for them to congregate. This is the Portage Creek Wildlife Area. This is a significant property and very accessible. Things that are already there simply need to be maintained and made accessible. The Centennial Trail, I'm sure you're familiar with. The White Horse Trail, the same. Even though they've had some washouts, they expect to have these up and running again in another year or so. The Boys and Girls Club, significant asset. And they do have at President's Elementary School an extension site. They are primarily younger age kids. And so they have facilities and programs and activities for that age group. The question would be teen and ages up, and where and how you provide for them. This is your new park proposal for Smoky Point Park. This is a great design. It gives you kind of the gathering and kind of informal neighborhood park that you need in the West Arlington area. We think this is a great idea. Now, we are still ongoing to a voter survey, asking for priorities on the things I've just shown you. To date, we have 401 completions, and they're still dribbling in a bit, and we won't cut them off until we don't get anything over the next couple of days. Well, some of the key things I've highlighted. First, I would show you in the bottom right, that's the green areas where the postcards went. They're based on USPS postal routes. We can't modify those much. So in some cases, they're a little shy of your limits. In some cases, they expanded a little bit. And then we divided the city up into 4 zones to see where people live. The distribution is pretty much reflective of where your population is, although 18% say they live outside city limits. In our experience, people don't always know whether they're in city limits or outside city limits. So it's probably as good as you're going to get. So how many years have you lived in Arlington? You can see over 50% of over 11 years. So these are people who are very familiar and very dedicated to the city. And there also tend to be people who vote. So it's a good idea that you get their opinions. Where do you work? 39% are outside the city, but 34% are inside the city. You have 16% are retired. Retirees do surveys more than any other group. They're kind of overrepresented in that sense. And you have 11% that said they were not currently working. And we got to keep in mind this is during the pandemic, and there have been a lot of people who have dropped in or out of the workforce during this time. You do have 17% are renters, so we have good representation there. You have a concentration under 18 and over 65. But there's a balance in all the age groups, which is encouraging, so that we have a balanced interest in it. 85% say they are registered voters in the city of Arlington. The question we asked them is, how many minutes does it take to get to a public park? And you keep in mind the 5-minute was our benchmark, and 40% can do that. But 40% take more than 15 minutes to get to a park. And that's where those wide area service gaps are the things we want to fill. Then we asked them to give us priority ratings on the things I showed you as the citywide elements. And so the first was, we did ask about what they thought about their quantity, location, and quality of your parks as they are currently provided. And we asked them on a score of 1 to 5, where 1 was the lowest and 5 was the highest. So the moderate or the median is 3. Anything above 3 is going to be a moderate and above. Anything below 3, and particularly below 2, is going to be a very low score. But they rated quantity as moderate, although even location and quality are very close to being the break even at moderate acceptability. When we asked them about conserving and enhancing the creek corridors, this was given a moderate to high priority. When we asked them about the picnic shelters, it was a high priority. When we asked them about multi-use trails, this was the highest, one of the highest priorities. When we asked about playgrounds, it was also one of the highest priorities. Sports courts was moderate to high. The multi-use fields was moderate. And special events area was moderate. First significant is all these scored moderate or above, but the ones that scored the highest, that had the greatest support, were playgrounds and multi-use trails. And those are also, as we remember back to the volume, this is where the greatest number of occasions and the greatest percent of your population participates. So if you're putting out a proposal for finance, you're going to make sure you emphasize trails and playgrounds first, and then consider what these other priorities are. Now, as Sarah said, we're here tonight to kind of give you an overview of this plan, or at least the contents we've developed so far. And when we come back on the 28th, we're going to bring in the cost and some of the financial options maybe you could consider. Do you have any questions on the PowerPoint presentation?
Can you stop sharing your screen so we can see if anybody raised their hand?
Okay.
Thank you. Jan, go ahead.
One of the things when I was reading through all that, and it was talking about working with the schools and everything, I guess what popped into my mind is liability, because I know that if everybody was going to the school facilities, that the liability would all be on the schools. And I know when we used their football field for the relay, it definitely cost us money for that liability. So I would like to know how that would work if we had an agreement and everybody was accessing the school facilities.
It varies from city to school district about what the terms are and what the conditions are. One of the most wide-ranging ones we developed was for the city of Bellevue. And the city was running after-school programs in school facilities and classrooms and gymnasiums and so on. So they had one agreement for that. And the issue was there anything in the building itself that was a potential liability for a user? And then the liability for actually doing the programs rested with the city. So if the city brought the kids in to do gym basketball, if anything happened during the gym basketball, that was the city's liability. If something failed on the building, that was the school's liability. But the city and the school district also wanted to make better use of their fields. And in order to come to terms on that, the city and the school district agreed to upgrade some of the elementary and middle school fields for safety reasons as well as competitive play. So the conditions for the liabilities there were that joint agreement, joint improvements for safety reasons they both agreed to. Now, probably the major issue that has affected schools relatively recently are all the shootings and the concern that after school activities, you're opening up the school grounds to the public and who knows, quote, who else could come in.
Right.
And also the design of some of the earlier schools have interior courtyards. I mean, they've kind of focused the buildings around the interior spaces. They're not visible from the outside. And so then the question becomes, if you're staging those kinds of activities inside that space after hours, where's the security? Because there are no eyes on the park. So I guess what I'm trying to tell you is there's no simple template I can say this is what you should follow. But I would say that it's certainly worth both of your interests to sit down and see what's at least possible and what you can share. Now, part of that sharing, as I said in Bellevue, was a financial agreement between the city and the school district to upgrade facilities to be playable. And the city considered that a worthwhile investment because it saved them having to go out and buy real estate to duplicate that. And the school district considered that a worthwhile venture because they got facilities that the state does not allow them to do. There are standards that the schools can't exceed to meet state requirements, but a third party can do that. So out of that came extra gyms, extra music facilities, coordinated parking, and coordinated field use. Now, can go too far. We did a plan in Lake Oswego, Oregon, where the leagues came in and convinced the school district to allow them to upgrade all the fields, and they made all the fields competitive. So if you went to an elementary school field, rather than pick up ball, it'll look like a little league field with fences and lights and so on. And so during the daytime, the kids were kind of excluded from that space. So the question is, where's the proper balance? Does that help?
Yeah, it does. My other question was on Country Charm, and I've been down there, drove around and everything. And I know that it is a flood zone, and which would limit when it could be used and what could be put there. And so is that going to be taken into account when you were talking about Country Charm?
I think the first issue is the master plan. And the first thing that in the master plan would be to do an environmental assessment of just exactly what the risks are not for different portions of that property. And we can design facilities that can sustain floods, but we have to decide that in the beginning, what's acceptable or not. For the fields themselves, you wouldn't want to overinvest in trying to make them too, quote, competitive and playable. You'd want them just to be good grass multipurpose spaces so that you could bring in activities and not have to worry about losing things during a bad year. And let's face it, we're going to have more bad years in the future.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Marilyn, go ahead.
Well, I'd like to say that I like the proposed master plan, and I think there are a lot of opportunities there. And I think that the survey is very valuable as to the direction, what's a priority and what isn't. And I think all of these options are interesting. And what's the cost to make them happen and the value with that
We'll
cost.
be back on the 28th.
I knew you would. Anyway, yeah.
This is, I think the question when we come back is to show you alternatives. There are a number of tools you can use. It's not like there's just one only way of doing things. Now, GMA and RCO require that whatever is in your plan has to, quote, be feasible. So when we show you the financial strategies, we'll be showing you things that are feasible. That doesn't mean you have to choose them. Right. That just means that we have to show that it's feasible and leave it to you to determine what's the best method of moving forward. Now, what we found is that bonds are difficult to get approved and to get the minimum turnout, even to get them approved. And bonds can only be used for construction. What we favor are levies. So where you can't get it in impact fees, you can't get it in what we call cost recovery on recreational fees, your fallback are levies. And first off, a levy only requires 50 plus 1 to pass, and there's no minimum turnout. And levies can be used for everything, not only for development, but for maintenance and operation and everything else. What we found is working the best in a lot of the cities we work with is the continuing levy. You do a 6 or 7 year levy with a very definite list of things you're going to do. And when you get that done and it expires, you ask for it to be renewed. Probably the premier there is Bellingham. They're on their 4th or 5th Greenway levy. And every time that expires, they have a new list of projects and they get it approved. Seattle did the first levy lid the levy lid lift, and they got a one-time $40 million shot for all their parks. But I think that even that was a little close. They got in around 52%, I think, approval, even though that was significant. But I think the reoccurring levy is closer to voters' comfort level, and you then have a very specific purpose of what you're going to do. So that's just kind of a forward idea. Think about that until we get back to you on the 28th with some alternatives.
It will be interesting to see how you want to fund certain projects with the how the public, how bad does the public want them? What's the most important thing, and how do we pay for it? So
if you're going to do a levy, anything you're going to do the truth testing. You're going to, do the ground root stuff. You're going to test which projects have support or not, how much they have, what's the amount of money they're willing to pay. I mean, that's the hard work, but frankly, that's the big payoff.
It is the bottom line. Will it work?
Correct.
Deborah has her hand up. Let's let her go.
Well, I really like this because as I was reading through it, and then your explanation helped me to take in it even more so. But it feels like what I feel like I'm obtaining as an elected official is the voice of the people. And to see what the future is too, I really appreciated the graphs of what our population looks like into 2050 and to see the range that we have there. So I feel like we will be able to hear what our citizens want and need and then make wise choices. So I really appreciate that our city has worked with you and for the product that you're bringing to us. So I thank both you, Tom, and Sarah for this. So I look forward to getting the ideas about funding. So I just really appreciate it. And I feel like you've given me a good working tool. So thank you very much.
Good. Appreciate that. Okay.
Hope we get more citizens that weigh in before the time is up. And 400 is great, but it doesn't even tick the scale of 1%. So really like to see that.
We've done a lot of surveys, and the issue is always, are they representative and are they statistically representative? The first rule is all surveys are self-selected. You're not going to get everybody. You're going to get everybody that are interested. And to make sure that you get a balance of even those that are interested is usually you lead with two issues, a carrot and a stick. A carrot, what do you want? And a stick is how much is it going to cost? And what we found is we get both spectrums of with those kinds of approaches. But what we have found is the people that participate in these kinds of surveys show up for the referendums. It's very predictive of what the referendums are going to be. And we found that that's how we measure whether or not it's valid.
Any other questions? Well, thank you for the presentation. We look forward to seeing you back on the 28th.
Great, thank you.
Yes, Sarah, did you have anything you wanted to add, Dan?
No, I think he covered everything. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Next time, Sarah, you get to do the talking.
Yeah.
See you later.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you. So speaking of hearing from our citizens, next step is we have a contract with Zen City, and Sarah's here to present that.
Thank you, Mayor. So we are proposing a contract with Zen City. It's a community engagement tool. We're requesting funding for 12 months. This program gathers and analyzes residents' input from online channels and allows our local government to hear from and understand all of their community members' real-time needs and priorities. Zen City does this with a unique method and technology that combines organic residents' dialogue found in public domains and cutting-edge survey sampling. They'll build us a dashboard that we can look at real time to see what the community is talking about, what the hot topics are, and it will allow us to respond quicker and see what the hot topics are in the city and be able to respond better. Were you able to look at the packet, and did you have any questions?
Deborah?
So Sarah, it was interesting because yesterday I had a conversation with some neighbors who have recently started a neighborhood crime watch page on Facebook, and it's a private. They said that they don't allow anybody from really outside of the neighborhood area, and they're reporting crimes that are happening, like real time type stuff, because we're having quite a bit of vandalism in the neighborhood. So is this an incidence of what this company would be like, kind of monitoring that type of social media? And
right. They would reach out to those private groups and ask to be part of the group so they could monitor that group as well. We would help with that reach out. And if they didn't allow it, then we wouldn't be able to monitor it. Okay. But I think hopefully that group is reaching out to the police department and not just online.
Yes, they have been. No, they have been. And that's a whole other story.
Right.
But, because my thought is, as I'm, part of the issue with social media, I feel like there's two sides to it. It's a good communication tool, and yet it's a bad communication tool too, because people can be very reactional. They don't take time to process. And so I guess, I think this is good and I'm not against it, but my word of concern would be that we don't become a reactional government due to just social media. You know what?
Right, exactly. But this will give us insight to what people are talking about and what is that the majority or the minority. And we can go from there to try to really dig in and see what's happening.
So I guess that's my other question then, is with this company or with you yourself and city staff, do you have the filters to be able to say, this is kind of crazy. We're not going to bring this forward and get a whole huge, tirade going.
Right. So we'll have a dashboard and the company sets it up and we'll be able to see what activity is happening. And then we also have a consultant that will help us. that we can reach out to if there's issues and to learn if this is something that needs to be reacted to or not. So I think it's going to be a learning tool for us.
And do you feel like it's going to help the city staff to maybe be more pertinent or efficient or helpful in what your jobs are?
Yeah, I'll help you with that, Sarah, too, is that, yeah, you know, there's so many different platforms and pages and things out there. We just don't have the bandwidth to be able to monitor all that. This gives the ability to be able to monitor a larger portion of what's being talked about out there and analyze what needs to be responded to and what doesn't. It just seems like we're spending a significant amount of time just trying to see what's being said out there. And we're not even scratching the surface. So it's just time to use technology as a tool to help with this.
That's good to hear. Thank you.
All right, Don, did you have your hand up for a question?
Yeah, just one quick question was on the dashboard, the data, how would that be accessible for us to view or just certain administrators so that we would be able to keep up to date on it and so
We'd
forth?
probably make it part of Sarah's monthly communication report, so the council would get it through that. The staff would use it probably on a daily basis, but Sarah would distill those topics into that monthly report for us.
Okay.
Michelle?
So Sarah, it would be gathering information from all the social activity that's already out there and compiling it?
Correct.
And like, would you expect there to be diverse traffic that you'll be getting information from? Because when you look at social media, sometimes there's the same people over and over.
And the platform will tell us if it's the same people.
So then what, I mean, I guess for me, I'm just wondering, what do we have to gain from it if it's already out there? And I'm not sure how big that pool would be. I don't know, maybe you have some data from other companies that you have used it on what's pulling in and how diverse is that information? Or is it the same group of people all the time and we're paying for something we already see anyway?
Well, we're not able to scan all the different platforms online as a staff of 2 people. So this will collect the data for us and break it down in a platform that we can understand and analyze.
It will also give Sarah and her department tools, Michelle, that let them know if their communication is being effective. Like, are we getting the right information out, or are we spending a lot of time answering individually the same question? So it can help guide how they're communicating with our citizens. Jan, did you have your hand up?
Actually, everyone else asked the questions that I had, so I took it down. Thank you.
Okay, Mike?
I kind of like the idea in that when you try to send out surveys, it's been my experience anyway, that surveys don't get a big response. And something like this, you're getting a big survey that's already out there just to collect. And so I kind of like this, kind of appeals to me to get a reading of what is actually going on out there and what people are talking about.
Heather?
Sarah, I'm sorry to ask this question, but it's niggling at me. What are we going to do about the rumor that the city is now spying on Facebook, spying on citizens on Facebook?
All the information is accessible. We're not spying. It's all accessible information that we could find. It's just a matter of collecting it.
Yeah, and I know that, but I can see a groundswell of, finger pointing occurring. I just think we better have an answer ready if we go forward with this contract in a week, correct? That's when we would vote on it, next week?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just want to state that concern.
I would say, Heather, I think that the council and myself, we spend a lot of time listening to citizens. That's primarily what our job is. But, with their input is how we make decisions and how to guide the city. And so this just gives us one more tool to gather input from maybe the less vocal majority that we don't get to hear from on a regular basis. So I think there's real value in hearing a lot of diverse voices across our city. As somebody said, and maybe not just the same ones all the time.
Yep, totally agree, totally get it. But if I'm a very vocal person on a social media platform and I hear that the city has purchased software or signed a contract, whatever, to analyze that, I just can see people, I can see a whole new thread coming up on a social media platform about how the city is spying. It's not correct. That stuff's already out there. Anybody can read it and count it, whatever they want. And I still think people will.
It's helping us hear their voice, though. This
Okay, well, great. Write that down and get ready to say it. I agree with everything you said, and I still think that people will say the city is spying.
Any other questions for Sarah on this one? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Because Heather wants you to come back with a statement, so.
I think she can do a statement anytime. I just think there will be people who will run with this idea.
I would agree. I think they will, but you know.
Right. I wouldn't stop us from going forward. I just think we should anticipate the need and be ready to explain our decision, whatever it is, a week from tonight.
I would agree.
All right, so we move on to the next item. Are we done? Okay, next up is a request for unscheduled equipment purchase. Jay Downing is here to present to us. Or James Street 5. No, nope, Jay. There he is.
I'm here. Thank you, Mayor, Madam Mayor, Council. Good evening. So this item is a request to make an unscheduled equipment purchase utilizing funds in the equipment replacement schedule. These funds were originally set aside for replacement of the city's road grader in 2024. There's currently 200,000 set aside to replace the existing road grader. That was set aside as a placeholder about 5 to 7 years ago, kind of upon the implementation of the equipment replacement schedule. Just kind of as a placeholder, but obviously nowadays with inflation, aside from the current like levels of inflation, just regular inflation, it's not enough to replace the road grader. So staff considered replacing it with a, sorry, let me back up a little bit. So the primary use for the current road grader is to grade our alleys, our gravel alleyways throughout the city, mainly in Old Town. A lot of those alleys are fairly narrow and this machine is quite large. So staff manages because they're a group of talented operators, but occasionally there is, you know, a fence that gets hooked or, you know, it's not as safe when we're backing out of an alley into traffic and that sort of thing. So it takes multiple staff members for traffic control and that sort of stuff. And so needless to say, staff isn't that eager to jump on that large piece of equipment and grade these alleys. So we kind of, we're brainstorming and we're looking at possibly replacing it with a smaller version of a road grader. And quick story, we happened to be meeting with Reese Construction to look at a project, and I saw a smaller road grader going through their yard, and I asked Andy about it, and he said, no, you don't want that. You want a skid steer. They can do pretty much the same thing, but you get a multitude of uses with all of the various attachments that come with it. So we started doing some research, and the more people we talked to and the more we researched it and just kind of dreamed about all of the things that we could be doing with it, with all of the available attachments for relatively low cost, that was kind of what stuck in our minds. So this request is for not only for the purchase of the piece of equipment itself, the skid steer front loader, but multiple attachments as well. And I'll share my screen. So, because I apologize, I didn't include any pictures in the packet. I know everybody likes to see pictures of new equipment. Let's see. Okay. So here it is. It's a Model 279 D3 rubber tracked skid steer loader. So it will come with the front bucket, and then it'll also come with various attachments as well. The cab, just like most equipment these days, they're set up for ergonomics and safety. The cages on the windows and a almost full 360 view. It also has a backup camera that automatically kicks on as soon as you put the machine into reverse. Josh Grindy, our supervisor, and I went and demoed this in person up in Mount Vernon a couple months ago, and it's a pretty impressive machine. It's very, very quiet, so you can hear, anything that you need to hear going on outside while you're doing the work. I just wanted to scroll down to show you some. There's a close up of the cab. So the attachments that we are looking at so it has augers. We did include the request to purchase a tree auger that allows us to basically take an auger right through a stump, an existing tree stump. So with the thought of using street trees that are upheaving the sidewalks in mind, augering out the stump and then leaving a hole for a tree replacement in the same spot rather than having to move it. Let's see. Blade, so it has a box blade, which would be your kind of equivalent to the road grader. Now, full disclosure, it won't necessarily do the same amount of work as a road grader would, just because of the size and the weight of it. It won't have the ability to rip through hard, compact gravel, that sort of thing. So we do plan to retain the existing loader. We won't replace it yet. It still has a ton of life left in it. We had an appraisal done on it, and all recommendations were to keep it until the absolute end of its useful life. So that's approximately 10 to 15 years with the amount of use that we use it for, and with the amount we use it. And we'll reevaluate within that time frame and see if we do the needs require us to replace it, or maybe buy another skid steer, just depending on where we're at that time. Brush cutter is included in the request for purchase. A cold planer, so this will allow us to grind up to 18 inches wide of asphalt. So when we're doing those areas of many small potholes in a row, we can take this and just grind out a section of asphalt so we have a nice clean patch, rather than and so we can grind it out and patch it with hot mix asphalt rather than just throwing in cold mix asphalt and crossing our fingers that it sticks for a while. And a good example of that would be in front of the pilot on Smoky Point Boulevard. It's kind of our known problem area. So you can see there's just endless amount of attachments. So we had to consider what our primary needs would be. And a stump grinder is also one of them that's would be very handy to have. It do have a handful of snow products, but we considered that, but for the price of the snow product attachments, we thought there's some different ideas that we had in mind. Didn't really see the need for that right now. That's pretty much it there. Yeah, I could probably talk all day about it. We did price it out with a 5-year, 3,000 hour warranty, which there's no way we would hit that 3,000 hours within that time frame with the amount we anticipate using it, which would even be much more than what we use the existing grader for now. But I'll open it up to questions. Does anybody have any questions?
EJ, would you mind stop there? Thank you. Okay, so Michelle, and then Don, and then Heather.
So Jay, thank you. I think you probably set the bar for the next person that wants to buy a piece of equipment to make sure we get all the details in the pictures.
Thank you. Thank you. The team did a great job doing the research. They did incredible. We worked really hard on it.
Thank you for that. And I like that you guys said that you're dreaming about all the different uses for it. But so you already had this budgeted for 2024. You just want to buy it early, right? So the money's there. It looks like on this, the data.
This is in lieu of, but we've been saving money to replace the road grader in 2024. What is being proposed here is that we're going to buy this now. Okay. We're going to keep the road grader. However, we won't replace it when it's at the end of its useful life. So we're temporarily gaining one piece of equipment, and then the road grader will go away sometime down the road when it's wore out.
Roughly 10 to 15 years, somewhere in there.
All right. Thank you.
All right, go ahead, Don.
Yeah, no, Jay, I really like this plan. I mean, I know the road grader very seldom does get used, and it does probably, just from what I've seen of it, look like it does have quite a bit of existing life left. And I love the idea that we're getting a very multiple use tool that can be used for many different things. And like you say, there's endless attachments you can keep looking for.
Yeah, the Swiss Army knife is how one person said it. Yeah.
No, this will be a very beneficial tool to us. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet.
Heather, your turn.
Jay, it was delightful seeing you get so excited about your tool, toy attachments. My question is, how are you now grinding stumps and chewing through asphalt and all the tools that you mentioned? How are those tasks getting done now?
Equipment rental, primarily. We will rent a piece of equipment or contract that particular task out. With the asphalt patching, if it's too big of a patch to put cold mix asphalt in, we'll contract with the local contractor. With stump grinding, typically it's a tree contractor, or we'll rent a stump grinder. And so that, is over time, obviously that's cheaper than in the now, but over time those costs do add up. And then we're also, by doing it in-house ourselves, we're also gaining that skill set too within our staff. So we're developing our staff as well.
Well, that's remarkable that you could buy it early and save money. Will the staff need formal training on the stump grinder versus the asphalt chewer versus? Oh, they will. And who provides that?
So that's a great question. And honestly, I haven't really thought that far ahead yet. Again, getting excited about the tools, but
the attachments.
Yeah, but we'll definitely make sure that that's carefully considered. Oh, Josh may be able to weigh in on that as well.
Oh, sorry. Thanks, Jay. Yeah, Caterpillar has actually told us that they'll provide us training on all the implements when they deliver it, and any additional training we need over the next few months, 6 months or so for this unit, they'll provide for free at no cost.
Wow. Good answer, Josh. That's all I have. Thanks, Jay.
That's a great answer. Hopefully we can get everybody trained in that 6 month period of time. Marilyn, did you have your hand up?
Yes, most of my questions were answered, but I did wonder about all those attachments and various accessories. What comes with it, and how much if you want extra attachments, how much is that?
So they range. It comes stock with the 84-inch front loader bucket. The attachments range from 1,800 for, say, the auger to gosh, I don't have it right in front of me, but up to like 8,000 to 10,000 for some of those attachments.
Okay.
I think I actually have it.
I was kind of curious about, how many of those do you think you'll need, and how much would all that be?
Was that included in the price on our cab?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All of the, the 1,000 or the 187,000 includes all of those attachments and a trailer to haul it on as well.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, Deborah, go ahead.
I just want to say that I've seen the big grader in action. I was looking at all my council people, and I think I'm the only one that lives in Old Town with a gravel alley that they've used it on. Oh, that's okay. The mayor too. So, well, Eric and Ray are my two grader guys that have done an amazing job over the last 17 years in our alley. But when I read this, I thought, oh, that's good, because I always hold my breath when that big grader goes through. And and I just thank you very much for the package, the research, everything you've done. I appreciate, but I mostly just want to say I appreciate M&O. You guys are always the unsung heroes in the background that makes the city keep going. So thank you for all the work you do in my alley all the years, and everybody else, and just what you do to keep us going. So thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. That means a lot. Appreciate it. We have a great team.
Yeah, and we like the curb appeal they give us, Jay. So thank you. for that. Okay, I think, Jan has questions. So.
Oh, I don't have a question. I just want to echo what Deborah was saying, how much I appreciate your leadership and going out and looking for things that are going to make our city look better. And I will add one thing, and I don't mean to offend anybody else, but M&O is the only department I have never had anyone in the city complain to me about. And they love the way the places look and how our roads look and how things are kept picked up and whatever. And so, like I say, I appreciate your leadership that has really, really benefited Arlington. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Jay. So you get to come present us a new piece of equipment and get some accolades for the job you and your team do.
Yeah, wow. Thank you guys very much. I really appreciate it.
All right. We'll see you next week, Jay.
All right. Have a great night.
Bye.
Okay, next up, we have some reappointments to the cemetery board. Jim Kelly. Oops, you're on mute, Jim.
I think he's having the same issue he had before.
Oh, there you are.
Okay. Now it just the computer hooks up to the phone or some other device. Thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. This is one of the most enjoyable items to bring before council. It's a chance to recognize two valuable community members, Alan Ice and Annette Patterson, who volunteer on the cemetery board and give of their time to help the cemetery become a very functional part of the city and of the community. Alan Ice has served on the cemetery board for 19 years and Annette has served for 6 years. Their terms are expiring and they have volunteered to renew for another term. And I am bringing a recommendation to council that we accept their applications for renewal to the cemetery board and welcome them aboard for another 4 years.
Great. Wow, 19 years. That's a great commitment. And that Alan wants to re-up. So must be doing good things on the cemetery board. All right. It looks like I don't have anybody have their hand up. So I probably just thank them both on our behalf. Continuing to service in a volunteer capacity and such a big asset in Arlington as the cemetery.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor and council members.
Don't go anywhere, Jim, because the last thing on our agenda this evening is the Utility and Transportation Quarterly Report.
This is a rather long report. I practice it like an auctioneer, but I will try to slow down. And please interrupt me, throw something at me if you can, and just as I'm going along, or wait to the end for questions.
And feel free to focus on the highlights that you think we really need to know.
So the big thing, personnel reclassification, thanks to you, Ryan Morrison is now City Engineer Public Works Deputy Director. Haley Duran is now from a seasonal to a full-time employee with the city. And Tim Sprague He passed a couple tests and he is now classified as a water distribution specialist too. Some grant updates. We will be applying for a Transportation Improvement Board grant in August of this year. We're going to resubmit the 200 in place rehabilitation grant. That will be perfect because it will be designed in 2023, constructed in 2024, and it will match up with completion of a roundabout by WashDOT at the intersection of 211th Place and SR 530. The 169th segment, that was presented at the 2020 regional competition. It was given positive marks, however, there was not sufficient funding. They are reallocating their funds now in February of 2022, and they will be taking a look at contingency listed projects. We're hoping that this project will move forward. 180th Street Connector, this is a road that will connect Airport Boulevard to Smoky Point Boulevard. It was presented at the ICC, the countywide competition, and it was given positive feedback and recommended for presentation at the 2022 PSRC regional competition. I will be presenting that one on April 11th. Smoky Point Boulevard and 180th Street Roundabout. That's going to be at the west end of the 180th Connector Road. And we're going to be looking for funding on that one through the PSRC countywide competition. Ryan Morrison will be presenting that grant. We will also be submitting for a pavement preservation grant. This pavement preservation grant will be resurfacing 67th Avenue Phase 2, roughly from 204th up to Bovee Acres. We're also following up on some water grant opportunities in the means of forgivable interest loans from the Washington State Revolving Fund offered through the Department of Ecology and the Department of Health. We are looking at our current freight routes, and we're not looking at them so much for pavement thickness, but more this time for mobility to make sure that these identified freight routes can handle the trucks that traverse their way through our city. We have a consultant that we're bringing on board for our transportation comp plan update, Transpo Group, and this will be one of the first items they will work on as soon as they're under contract.
So, Jim, I have a quick question.
I do too.
In the assessment of this, are you saying that if they find a better route, that may happen rather than just assessing what's already what it is?
No, it'll be looking for, that's a very good question. The routes are pretty much identified by people driving on it. We're looking for turning movements where we have limitations on turning movements. We just completed the 67th Avenue Phase 3 project, and while it does have great turning movement for a WB40 truck, what goes down that road a lot is a WB53. It has a trailer that's 13 feet longer, and it takes a much wider turn. So we have to take a look at that intersection, and that will be completed as part of the 211th project should we get the grant.
So, because what I've been noticing is we're having double long logging trucks using Broadway and Division as a freight road to cut off from Highway 530. So they're coming, hitting the little traffic circle, going down in front of Mirkwood to catch the light. And is that considered a freight route?
No, that is not.
So is this information you will give to this company?
Yes, it is. And that shortcut is not only taken by log trucks, it's taken by the compost truck that comes out of Darrington. It's taken by vehicles. It has 7,000 vehicles a day. In 1993, when Arlington entered into an agreement with WashDOT, WashDOT promised that they would put a signal up at Burke Avenue and SR9 and Burke Avenue and Broadway when the time has come. They failed to honor that agreement, that contract with the city. And what the repercussions that we're receiving from that is traffic, because they cannot make a left-hand turn at Burke and SR9. They're cutting through the city, ruining our roads.
Yep.
driving over our sidewalks.
Yep. Believe me, I see it every day.
I'm sorry, did my anger with WashDOT come out?
No,
Yeah.
and I'm piggybacking with you. So, okay, I'll let you go on, but thank you. Okay, I just want that examined.
Marilyn?
Yes, I was wondering about the roundabout at 211th and 530. So is that going to be a truck route? And how it's really awkward when trucks come off of 530 onto 211th, and if, should they wish to turn right, it's really scary because they go into, if there's lines, cars queued up in the left turn lane to go onto 211th, they can't go, so is there any hope for rectifying that?
The roundabout will be designed so it can pass WB 53 trucks, and there will be solid, it's not going to be striped, it's going to have solid medians and curbing so that it will direct flow. There'll be a splitter island that will separate the eastbound trucks coming off of 530 over to 211th from the vehicles that are exiting from 211th onto SR 530.
Okay, that part's good. The part I'm worried about is the trucks that come off of 530 and come up to 67th and want to turn right. Is there any
that was one of the areas I said that intersection was designed for a WB 40. It should have been designed for a WB 53. We will be taking a look at that intersection again.
Okay.
We have plenty of right of way over on that southwest corner.
Southwest, okay. It's a mess some days. It's kind of scary, and so I just hope, I don't know if we wouldn't want to encourage trucks to come off of 530 should they be heading back the other to the right. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You do. Okay. Thank you. I hate it.
Hey, Heather, are we gonna, Jim's got 8 more pages of report to go through here. So if you're gonna be asking questions, I might not be seeing you. So we'll take Heather's question and maybe then we can let Jim get through his report, mark your questions down, and we'll do questions at the end. Go ahead, Heather.
Do the opposite. I already marked my questions down, so let me give the table or the floor back to Jim.
Okay.
The flashing stop sign installation, if you've driven through the intersection of McLeod and Fifth Avenue, it's Christmas. New speed awareness signs, they are coming in. In fact, they have arrived today. Ryan Morrison assembled a committee with Public Works, CED, M&O, and the police department, and they will be electing locations where to set up these speed awareness signs. Meter shortages, that goes on. We have an order in of 125 meters from August of last year. We received probably 50% of that order. So that's one of the things that is hurting development. Utility easement reconciliation, we're working with Washington Trucking to reconcile where the utility easement is. It was recorded on a 2004 BLA based on a line segment survey. They want to see it in legal description. West Avenue Bridge abutment removal. Snohomish County is preparing to remove the West Avenue Bridge abutment that sits in the Stillaguamish River. If you guys remember the old West Avenue alignment and how it crossed Stillaguamish River right next to the train trestle, they're wanting to remove that bridge as part of mitigation to other work that they're doing in the river. However, removal of that abutment could impact our water quality because our well is so close to it. So we are working with Snohomish County. Huber fine screen repairs and maintenance, as we talked about, there are supply chain issues. The screen is sitting in the docks over in Seattle. However, the lines for truckers to get in and get that is so long that we can't get any truckers to go stay and wait in line. We'll skip that one. Marysville and Arlington, we will be meeting in the next couple of weeks to take a look at another development that lies half in Arlington and half in Marysville. We're going to be talking about having Arlington provide water, sewer to the entire property. So we'll have a little agreement to change our water service area. At this meeting, we're also opening up the whole Arlington Marysville water service area. It's time to get formal discussions going. So we will be opening up formal discussions. It'll be with myself, Ryan Morrison, the utilities director for Marysville, and also the utilities M&O operations manager. A pre-treatment program, that's a requirement with the state. The pre-treatment program greatly protects the large investment that the city and the community made into our wastewater treatment plant. So we've been updating our pre-treatment program given all the industrial growth that has been going on in Arlington right now. And it's also something that needs to be done at the end of 2022, according to our NPDES program. Lift Station 7 analysis, well, that's ongoing. I'll have better news for you at the next quarterly meeting. Sewer Department tax analysis. Department of Revenue is requesting that we analyze our apportionment of taxes that go to collections versus taxes that go to treatment. There's two different taxes, two different tax levy rates. So that is being contracted with the consultant. Urn Garden final plat has been recorded. We're looking to buy a mobile tent for our cemetery. And what that will do is that will save approximately 2 hours on every opening and closing because it takes so long for our current tent to set it up and then to take it down. So this will be a mobile tent that will stay up permanently. Comprehensive plan updates, water, sewer, and transportation comp plans are all being updated. Contracts and projects. The 2021 utility pavement and the Smoky Point Boulevard overlay projects are going through closeout. 173rd Street Phase 1 is completed. We were waiting for PUD to energize. They will energize the lights on Wednesday of this week. So officially, we can open up the road on Friday, or if we want to have a grand open or a ribbon cutting, we can wait till that happens. But that road is ready to be open. If you have some time this weekend, please park over there and take a walk on the road. It's very nice. SR 531 40th Avenue intersection and the 43rd Avenue roundabout project. Both of those are intersection improvement projects in SR 531. They are about ready to start construction. The roundabout project will be a 4-month project. The the 40th Avenue signal project will be about 5 months because it takes a lot of median reconstruction. 2022 utility pavement design project that we have a 30% meeting tomorrow. Smoky Point Boulevard and pilot roadway repair. We've done a repair with at part of the roadway, but the roadway is continuing to deteriorate. We're taking a look at that. There's two reasons why it is deteriorating. One is a structural number of the roadway where the turning movements are. Basically, a lot of stresses get imparted into the roadway when a truck makes a turning movement with its tires, and it has to turn a 120,000-pound vehicle. And then also the road widths are not wide enough, so the edges of the paved surfaces are fraying on the outside and where the shoulder is. So we're going to be putting together a repair, and we will be taking care of that this summer. 169th final segment, we're hoping to get funding on that. We are moving forward with the design. Today, we signed a purchase order to move forward with the cultural resources assessment. A survey has already been completed, and we are in contract negotiations with SCJ for preliminary environmental analysis and roadway alignment. Broadway and Division resurfacing, we're selecting consultants to design that. That'll be designed 2023, designed 2022, constructed in 2023. Smoky Point Boulevard corridor, we came out with an initial alignment on that project. It is a layout that's on an 18-foot long drawing. We're commenting on that, and we're getting ready now to start working with utilities. SR 530 Smoky Point Boulevard Roundabout. That project is moved into, we're finishing up the project. We're almost at 100% design. We're still looking for money. If you take a look at this project, it's a $6.3 million project with construction, design, and right-of-way. All that we need from the state is $4.3 million. Jointly, the city of Arlington, Snohomish County, and the Stillaguamish Tribe of Indians have contributed 31% towards this project. All we need is the state to come in and pay for 69%. After all, it is their roadway. 204th and 74th Avenue intersection, the design is complete. We're working on obtaining all right-of-way. 74th Avenue trail completion, 90% design, working on right-of-way. SR 530 widening project. The project has been, it will be going out for proposal, design build in August of 2023. Notice to proceed issued for construction in 2024. They will start construction in 2024, and they're anticipating construction completion in 2025. The two roundabouts on SR 530, which are 59th and 211th, those are washtop projects. They will be completed. The design will be completed this year, and the right-of-way will be purchased. They will be constructed in spring of 2023. Hallowell South expansion, we took a look at 4 different options for how the expansion would be for the building and how it'll interface with the park. We've worked with Sarah Lopez on this and with Paul. Based on what Sarah recommended, we're going to be going with option number 4. We will be producing a estimate of raw water production, a cost estimate, and some architectural rendition. And I will take this project, since it is in the park, to the Park Commission for their review. And due to the impact that this project is having, we've also been working with Park on putting up stairs over to Centennial Trail so that we have quick access from Hallowell Park to Centennial Trail. It was recommended from Sarah and Park that we use concrete. That was one of the alternatives we presented. So we're moving with concrete stairs. Hallowell North expansion, we are extending our lease with CoStar for another year. We've met with the Department of Health. They say it's a fine location, but based on preliminary results, it is not groundwater. It is groundwater that must be treated as though it is surface water, what they call groundwater under the influence of surface water, which is fine. Our expanded water treatment plant will be able to handle all this, which is the water treatment plant expansion project that is slowly moving forward. We're reviewing technical memorandums on disinfection capacity, ultimate treatment trains. Membrane, the water reclamation facility, EQ Basin. Last week they were hauling in lots of equipment. So this has been another project that had a supply chain issue. We bid this project, we issued a notice to proceed, but they could not get parts. Finally, the parts are showing up. They will be starting construction at the end of this month, and we are anticipating that construction will take us all the way through November. We also have the membrane replacement for trains 1, 3, and 4. The purchase order has been issued to Kubota. The membranes will arrive in Arlington. The first shipment will arrive in June of this year. The second at the beginning of June. The second shipment will arrive at the end of June. We're moving forward with the Hammer water rights transfer. That will be finalized and submitted to the Department of Ecology in June. And as soon as that's done, we'll jump over and start working on movement of the airport water right over to the Hallowell. South CIC utilities, there's multiple aspects here. The water and the force main, the 12-inch water main over to connecting 59th to 51st has been installed. The force main is installed. We are having supply chain difficulties with getting components for the new lift station 16. We are in discussions with Mark, with Roxy and with Equity Builders who are building the lift station to see what we can do to make sure that we meet the needs of Roxy when they want to take occupancy. It looks like our schedule is going to be slipping by 30 days because we're missing controllers for the motor controllers for the pump station. Island Crossing compensatory storage, we have proposals in from 3 firms, Soundview Consultants, Whedon Engineers, and Watershed Science and Engineering. We're looking for a financial consultant that would be able to wrap this together and generate the LID. Glen Eagle Reservoir upgrades have been put on hold. Prairie Creek Bnsf culvert, we had a meeting last week, and in addition to having somebody from Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife retire, we had a new person come on board, and there has been a discussion going on whether the culvert should be 75 feet or 80 feet, a 5-foot difference that has been going on for over a month and a half. BNSF finally agreed to let us install a 75-foot culvert, which would require a little bit bigger wing walls. So we're going to get them the 90% plan set at the end of next week. They will review it, give their blessing on it. Once they get it, it goes to Fish and Wildlife. They will put their blessing on it and give us their approval. This length has taken, this time has taken a little bit, added a little bit risk in our ability to meet the fish window in which we can install this, which is August of this year. Chris Wallace has negotiated with FEMA, and we have a 1-year extension on our grant just in case we don't just in case we don't hit the August fish window. We have until August of 2023. So thank you, Chris. 520 Booster Pump Station, that project was put on hold. We have to reevaluate. We have an expanding service area in the city. So we want to make sure that the booster pump improvements that we do move forward with will be able to serve this expanded area over this expanded UGA in the southeast quadrant of Arlington. The new reservoir siting, it's been put on hold also. 67th Avenue sewer main, Ryan Morrison is negotiating with RH2 on design of that project. In addition, we do, our engineering department supports miscellaneous projects. The Public Works Admin Utility Plant Security project, we have Brian Terry and his team have done a wonderful job. We have an alarm and cameras that are really functional and key card systems. The 177th Place infiltration system, that project that has already gone out to bid. The construction is complete except for the final paving. Olympic and Highland, that's still in design. Facility maintenance of storm ponds and 2 reservoirs. That project bid, it's pending a start in late April. Lift Station 6 wet well lid improvement, that is currently out for bid. Bids are due next Tuesday. We have a lot of GIS items. I'm not going to go over them all. I'm going to save you. I think I'm losing my voice. But every project that we work on is touched by GIS. So I can't tell you how valuable GIS is to our team. And with that, I will stop talking.
Thank you for the long report. Now, you ready to take some questions, Jim?
I'm ready.
All right, go ahead, Heather.
Hi, Jim. The first thing I'd like to say is please pass along my admiration to the geniuses who work for you that put together this transportation projects funded through construction map, and the one on the back, the planning and design projects funded and pending. This makes it so easy to get a snapshot in a clear, understandable format. They're wonderful. I do have one suggestion that would be more convenient for me as a council member, because people always want to know when. Would it be possible to add into the description blocks an estimated, well, it would only be on the funded and pending ones, an estimated time frame? On the construction ones, it would be nice to know, I mean, like it says completion year 2022. Well, is that summer or fall? I'm not looking for the exact dates. I don't want to be held to those, but estimated timeframes would make these absolutely perfect. And they're so handy, just like they are. Thank you.
I will work with GIS on that tomorrow.
Okay. I have a couple of questions. The emerging water regulations, when will the first tests have to be done under those new standards?
We owe reporting in 2023. Right now, they do have some grants available for people that want to run up and do some early evaluations of PFAS.
Okay.
So that was our discussion last week is, do we want to go in after that grant funding? Do we want to be the first person? I think everybody's sort of like looking at everybody else.
You first.
Yeah, that's basically it.
Okay. On the State Road 531 widening project, depending on which social media page you read, that's never happening or has already happened. My question is, what is going on now? What can I tell people who are asking me about 172nd? I can see millions now of little yellow and orange flags. I assume that has something to do with it. What can I tell people? Never mind that it's not going to be completed till 25 or 26, but what is the state doing now?
Right-of-way procurement.
Meaning they're buying the
lands that
width of the land they need from the owners on either side.
Yes, and basically we know that between 51st and 43rd, that is Roxy. So that's pretty much all done.
Okay.
The next area, as you get from 51st to 59th, that is airport, and it's also FAA. So,
and they're really easy to work with, I hear.
Yeah, right. So, and then the 59th to 67th, I believe a lot of that is North Point development. I don't think that's going to be really difficult. So we're looking at the 59th to 51st area.
And that could take a while. Okay, I think I had one other question. Oh, when you do the 67th Avenue sewer improvements, is the road going to be usable for drivers or do we have to use a workaround?
The road will always be usable for drivers. It might be put into a single lane flagger controlled for a few times, but it will always be open. We'll never close it for drivers.
Okay.
And we want to get that work done before if we get the paving grant. So we want to pave and have a beautiful road done.
A beautiful road. And how long do you think that 67th sewer main improvement project will take? How many months?
Between 2 and 3 months.
Okay, a short one. All right. Thank you very much, Jim.
You're welcome.
Okay, Marilyn. You're muted, Marilyn.
Sorry, forgot I did that. I had two questions. One is on the 172nd. Is all the right-of-way acquisition on the south side of the street?
That is correct.
Okay.
The roadway expansion all went south.
All on the south, none on the north.
That's right.
Okay. And then the other question is on the negotiations or whatever with Marysville on the water service area for that new development. Are there going to be any discussions with the Smoky Point area as well included in those?
That's basically what we're looking at. It is, you know, taking over, you know, and keeping the water sewer service to Arlington residents provided by the city of Arlington.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jim, just a point of clarification on the north side of the expansion of 531, there will be a sidewalk or a trail. There'll be a pedestrian.
Yes, there will there will be construction on the north side. However, there will not be any right of way.
Right. We don't have to purchase any property for it.
On the north side, no.
Okay, Mike, go ahead.
The new development down by Marysville, is that smart cap?
The development that's going in Marysville is North Point. These questions should be going to Mark. The ones I know of is North Point that's being constructed in Marysville right now with a lot of fill off of 51st Avenue. And then within Arlington city limits, that is the BYK or the outpost at 50 in Smoky Point. the BYK construction.
Okay, thank you.
North Point is the only development in the CIC that the entire development is in both cities, so it straddles the boundary. Okay, I think Don had his hand up. Or did you just have, okay.
Just one quick question. It's nothing that was on your list though, Jim, either. I just happened to notice the other day all the paint marks for utilities down through our nice, beautiful new roundabout at 204th. Are they going to be doing work through there and tearing up our road?
That I don't know who is spray painting those. So all the right-of-way permits will have to go through Ryan. So just because people spray paint utilities, that's part of Washington state law for 811. Anybody who has a utility, if somebody calls it in, they have to locate it. But as far as I know, the answer to that is no.
Good.
I hope so. Jeez.
Okay, Deborah and then Jan.
I have two questions, Jim. The first one is item number 9, the 169th Street final segment. And I understand that we're hoping for contingency funds through PSRC. My question is, if that does not occur, then, and I guess this is maybe directed to Paul and the mayor also, but I would like to know if we can come up with our own contingency, because I think that is such a key segment of roadway that would be good for the city to accomplish before all of the construction on 172nd. So maybe at our budget retreat in the fall, that we would know by then if we're going to have that contingency money from PSRC or not. And if not, what can we do to make this happen? So I guess that's just kind of a forward thinking request. And then
we've already talked about that a little bit with you.
Yeah.
Deborah.
So
I know you have, but not as a
working
group.
on a capital budget right now with our capital needs and so and the capital funding that we have. So one of the things we're waiting on is to hear about that contingency money.
Right.
Should be this week.
You know, so yeah, the mayor just said it should be this week. So that proposed budget will come to council for consideration before fall. We want to get that. We've got other needs out there, and so I want to be able to go over everything kind of holistically with council all at one time, and then look at our capital needs versus our capital funding.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. And then item number 10. I feel like this is a very current topic. I'm not sure if all my fellow council people read their emails today, but we had 2 emails dealing with that piece of roadway. And so it's Broadway and Division, and I understand that we have it under design for this year and reconstruction of it for next year. I'm saying that that's not good enough. That is a very dangerous piece of roadway. And I see it every day, bird's eye view. I hear it. I am hearing people speeding and drifting those circles at 4 a.m. in the morning and at 2 in the afternoon, 7 days a week. And then you have, that is along the Centennial Trail. You have businesses, you have shopping, you have pedestrians, and this is it's getting crazy. So what I'm saying is asking for us to think about what can we do that's a multi-prong approach. I do not expect our police to sit there 24/7. I know they can't. I know we have limitations. I, as a person that would end up driving it over it every day, I don't care if there's speed bumps there. I want safety on that roadway for the people, for our citizens and the property. I'm just waiting for one of those trucks that is doing the drifting to end up in the Fountain drive-in or the house on the corner. So can we talk about semi-permanent, temporary fixes to make people drive safer? Because I know that there's supposedly a fix coming, but 2 years is not acceptable to me, where I've seen this. Well, you said the number has gone up to like 7,000 on that corner on a daily basis, and it's not built for that. And then you get people who are choosing to drive dangerously. So also, just in my limited knowledge, we could do speed bumps. I also know there's ways that we can temporarily redesign traffic circles. Can we have a conversation about this? Our engineers, our staff, trying to come up with something that we could do this year until it's totally rebuilt. So, and I don't know if other council people were concerned when they read those letters today, but it bothered me. And I know I've seen, and I want to say thank you. I know we're being heard because I have the flashing stop sign on 5th and McLeod. Let's hope they stop, but at least it's there. But I'm very, very concerned, and people are contacting us about this section.
We were moving forward with demountable curbs, concrete curbs, and putting those in and making a solid rolled curb median, and then putting in concrete spokes inside the center. However, we stopped work on that as soon as we got the grant. When we received notification of the grant, we stopped work on that, and we just said, okay, let's work on. I'm over in my office, and I don't know if you just heard that, but there was somebody driving at Hallowell Park at about 50 miles an hour.
I heard him go here first. So
okay,
yeah.
well, that's probably the same person. So,
yeah.
Yes, we will. I will have a meeting with Paul on Thursday. I will add this one to the list.
I really appreciate that.
Okay.
Okay, Marilyn.
Yeah, I would agree with Deborah, and I just have to say that if you drive down Airport Boulevard and you look at the skid marks and the drift marks and everything, somebody's out there having a party most of the time, driving up and down there. It's pathetic. And the roundabout there by the Fountain Drive-In is terrible. And the crosswalk at Olympic and Division, my daughter was actually hit as a pedestrian by a car there. So I have, it really comes personal to me. It's a very dangerous area. And I hope that we can do something about it. It's very dangerous. She was hit. She was knocked down by a car. I mean, it's just
at the intersection of Olympic and Division.
Yeah, she went to the bank. She works at Cascade Surveying. She went to the bank. She got knocked down. She had money in her hand, flying around the street.
Yeah,
people helped her, but you know, she's not the only one. That is a terrible intersection. So, okay, I'm done.
I will say, Jim, I do want to compliment that those pedestrian lights at the 204th roundabout, those are fantastic. You can really see them from a great distance away when cars are coming towards the intersection. And it really makes me feel like those are safer intersections. So we need to put pressure on MaSDOT to get those.
Well, but we need to deter people from driving so dangerously.
Yes.
It's a choice. You know, if they drove legally, it wouldn't be an issue. But there are people that are driving all day long and into the night, 7 days a week. And most of them head out to 5:30. So they come down McLeod, they come down Olympic. So it's not just Division, it's all of our old town streets. And this is where people can live. This is Old Town. We have our Centennial Trail, we have parks. And we're allowing these people who are choosing to live dangerously to create danger to innocent bystanders. And we've got to do something, and our police can't do it. So let's come up with some other ideas.
Good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
Just to circle back on the rapid rectangular flashing beacons, We have 2 pilot crosswalks that were going in, one at the Centennial Trail on Division, and then one over by the fountain crossing Broadway. We started working on those with M&O, but we got deferred because of cold weather. And that was on the high visibility crosswalk, the methyl macrylate paint that we were putting down.
Yeah. Okay.
We're trying to get that going again.
Thank you. And it's clear from your report, Jim, your quarterly report, that there is a lot of work happening in your department and a lot of planning being made. So I want to make sure that you hear that and that we are grateful for that as well. All right. Should we let Jim go enjoy his Monday evening with his family now? All right. Thank you again, Jim.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Jim, as always.
Paul, do you have any report this evening?
Nothing else this evening. It's hard to beat Jim's report, so I'll just won't even try.
I do want to appreciate and thank Paul for getting back to the citizens that wrote to us about those intersections on. It's great. Do we have any comments from council members this evening? Yeah, we didn't have any members of the public that wish to speak to the council this evening. I will just let the council know that we have asked Jonathan to put together a report on what happened in the legislature this year in terms of modifications to the bills that were passed the previous year for the police, so that he will make that report to the council so we all know what changed and what didn't change this year.
Great.
Right. All right, we don't have any need for an executive session this evening, Jen.
Okay, what about consent items?
Yes, okay.
How about
one reminded me of that.
Yes, I agree. 1 and 5.
1 and 5. Anybody disagree with 1 and 5 being put on the consent agenda?
Nope, sounds good to me.
Okay, items 2 through 4 then will be on the regular agenda. Thank you, Wendy.
Okay, if that is everything, Madam Mayor, I move to adjourn.
Second.
Question?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Good night, everyone.
Good night, all.
Good night.